Today I saw this sewing tool belt on Pinterest, so I'm gonna make it. The materials I needed were D-rings, clips, backpack strap material, accent fabric, and a main fabric. I started by making my pattern. For the main piece, I made this kind of triangle-y, half triangle sort of shape, and I made it fairly big. I wanted to be able to hold all my tools. So here I am just making sure all my tools will fit in the shape that I drafted. I'm always losing my scissors and rotary cutter, so I wanted those definitely to be able to fit in here, and then also a pen and a seam ripper. After ensuring that everything fit, I just cut it out with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I just kind of eyeballed the seam allowance this whole time. One day, it's gonna make my life very difficult, but for now, eyeballing it works. So now I'm just going to be drafting the pockets. I basically trace the outline of the edge of my big shape and then make sure the pocket fits the intended tool that I'm using it for. And I just draw that out and cut it out and then make sure it fits in my big pocket by just laying it on top. I'm using this butcher paper I got at Michael's to draft everything, but you could just use wrapping paper or anything like that. And pro tip, you can iron paper, so I should have done this the whole time, but if you iron paper without steam, it actually lays flat. But be careful and don't burn your house down. I'm making the pocket for the scissors the same way I made the pocket for the rotary cutter. The scissors will have an extra strap on top of the pocket made out of the accent fabric. My accent fabric's the bee fabric, and this is gonna keep the scissors in place and not like flopping all over the place. Here I'm just making sure the pockets fit together, and they did. First try, which was great. And the last pocket is just a rectangle that will hold the pen. I traced all my small pattern pieces onto the big one so I kind of knew where everything was going to lay. And here's all the pattern pieces that you will need. Now it's time to cut out of the fabric. I'm doing mostly out of this blue floral fabric, and so that one edge is going to be cut on the fold to make my life easier. And I'm just cutting this out, and it's 2 layers. All of the small pocket pieces are going to be cut out of 2 layers as well. I'm just double checking that it'll fit, and it seems like it will. So I'm going to cut it out with my terrible rotary cutter skills. I don't know why I'm so bad at using this tool, but I am. If you don't have a rotary cutter and you want to get one, make sure it has a guard on the top. This one has a guard on the top. My first one did not, and I sliced my finger open. So I might be afraid of these tools, which may be why I'm so bad at using them. For the accent fabric, it's just some rectangles. I didn't even measure it. I just cut rectangles out. The one thing I did make sure is that when I fold it in half and sew along the edge, when I iron it flat, there will be one line of bees. And that's just because of the fabric I have. If you don't have a fabric that looks like that, it doesn't really matter. I wanted to add the accent fabric to my rotary cutter pocket. So to do that, I'm just sewing along like so. It's hard to say. You're only going to sew along one line, so you're not going to put the other pocket on top. It's I You'll see. So I'm going to try that again. So basically you're just patchworking the bee fabric onto the main pocket fabric like that, and then sewing the other side on top, right sides together, leaving a gap, flipping it inside out, and that way there's a little accent strip of bee fabric on top. For the rest of the pockets, I'm just sewing the two pieces of fabric right sides together, leaving a gap, and then flipping it inside out. For the second strip of accent fabric, I'm just sewing it into a tube and then flipping it inside out. Now that all my pockets are finished, I'm going to attach them to my main piece of fabric. So here's my main piece. It's on the fold, so it opens up like this, and I'm going to sew the pockets on the right side. To do this, I'm going to top stitch along the edge seams of each pocket. But first, I'm going to arrange them to make sure they fit nicely. The pink lines are where you want to sew. Don't sew along the yellow. Once those are all top stitched down, I'm just making sure my scissors and rotary cutter fit. My rotary cutter didn't really fit, so I added a seam right on that pocket to make it a little more snug, but that was no big deal. And then I'm going to close the pocket up. So, the big pocket, I should say. So I'm just going to sew along the edge, but leaving the top open. Now I'm just going to flip it inside out, and everything should be sealed up, because when we sewed along that edge, we also sewed those seams that we didn't sew the first time. Here you can see where my rotary cutter didn't really lay how I wanted it to, so I just added a line of stitching to make that pocket a little tighter, and then I can also put a pen next to it. It works out. Now I'm just folding in the top. It's not shown here, but I double folded it so there's not a raw edge. But this, I didn't really plan it this way, but there's a big pocket out of the main pieces of fabric. And so that's really handy too for like my phone. After that's done, I'm just gonna sew my strap on. So my strap's made up of this backpack strap material I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm using my extra B tube fabric and cutting it in half and then making these little straps so I can thread my backpack strap fabric through. And I just sewed those onto the back of the big pocket, making sure not to catch the front. So now I'm going to thread my strap through, and I'm going to add my clasp and D-ring to my strap. I did it so it's only one size, but you could easily make this adjustable with an adjustable adjuster thingy. But I just sewed my D-ring on one side and sewed my clasp on the other so that it fit around my waist. And to finish the edges of the strap so they don't unravel, I just burned it with a lighter. And here's the final result. I think it came out really, really good. It's really helpful when I'm sewing, keeping all my tools right there on me so I don't lose anything. I hope you make one. It's really fun. It's really simple. I highly recommend it.